Welcome to the Shamanism Global Summit, an extraordinary gathering of teachers and healers from around the planet, sharing insights, principles, and rituals for personal and collective healing and transformation. Please share this event with your friends and family, and come join us on Facebook at The Shift Network. And now your host, Michael Stone.
Welcome back to the Shamanism Global Summit 2018. This is your host, Michael Stone, and I am so excited to have my friend ItzhakBeery on today. He's a leading shamanic healer, a teacher, community activist, speaker, and the author of Amazon book bestsellers, The Gift of Shamanism, Shamanic Transformations, and Shamanic Healing, Traditional Medicine for the Modern World. Itzhak's also the founder of the Shaman Portal in New York City and the New York Shamanic Circle. Itzhak, it's great to have you on the summit.
I'm so excited to be here and share with what I just experienced at the Andes Summit in Ecuador.
Well, give us some context of that. I'm really excited too, and sorry that we missed that. You pulled together in Ecuador a number of shamans from around the area, and you just took a group down there. Tell us a little bit about it and what happened.
My teacher, Don Jose Joaquin Pineda, asked me a year and a half ago, I think that you were on that trip.
I was.
To bring people from the rest of the world to Ecuador so they can introduce them to the Andes healing techniques and wisdom, because they used to travel around the world teaching it, but it's very different because you can't really experience the power, the intention, and the wisdom of all of that without being surrounded by the volcanic mountains and the valleys, and the rivers and the lakes, and all the plants and medicine that they have there. So when he suggested it, I totally resisted it because I knew how much work it is, and I know that I cried on your shoulder, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. But then we went to Sarayaco and to the jungle, and I had some more time to think about it. And I said, okay, you know what? Maybe I should just rise to the challenge. And I came to you and I told you that story that I'm going to call it the Andes Summit. And I got your blessing, and it was just so important for me because it wasn't just a crazy idea. It was crazy idea in many ways because at the end we made all the mission of that summit were really achieved. I mean, it was really hard work to create, but most of it was hard to bring all those 10 shamans together because there are, and it's a small area in the Andes, which is the most famous area for shamans, and they're all very proud families, and they all own that ancestral tradition, and they guard it very carefully, and very proud people. And so there's a lot of like in any kind of profession, there is a rivalry, there is talks and gossip and all that stuff. And then so last year I spent 10 days with a friend of mine going between each of the shamans and convinced them to participate in the shamans. And I really did a healing sessions with each one of them to convince them to come. And at the end, although one of them almost pulled out and I had to bring them back to the summit, at the end, all of them came.
Talk about herding cats.
Well, it's like herding wild cat, or bringing them back together because they're really very territorial, very family oriented. But it was really beautiful because they recognized their unity, they recognized their skills. They were sitting through every masterclass that each of them taught, and they saw the commonality of all of them. And there was so many tender moments where they came to look at each other's eyes, or they cheers together, they hug, or they touched each other. I mean, rivalries for many years came and just like hug each other or touch in kindness. And it was so beautiful to see, because they really became a community. But not just the shaman themselves, but all of their families, their wives, their daughter, their sons, their grandchildren, their extended family. They all came, unexpectedly, because we didn't expect to have all of them. So we had about between 45 to 50 people from all their families. We have to put them together.
In addition to all the people coming from North America.
We have about 45 people that came from 11 different countries, from Australia and Bali and Europe and America and Argentina and South Africa. So it was such a beautiful way to. I think that the participants in the summit really recognize what the healing that is happening between the shamans. And then also when they went to the shamans, they had these choices that they can make. They went to visit the shamans in their own homes. The experience of healing was so profound, so amazing. And the shamans totally accepted them in their healing room as family, not as people who come from another country, because they already had 3 or 4 days that they actually knew them, and they felt such a compassion to them, and they developed this relationship, which I hope that in the future we can continue to develop that, because it's such a beautiful way of spreading the ancient wisdom.
That's beautiful. Talk about some of the, I suppose you did L'Olympia, some cleansing ceremonies. What were some of the kinds of ceremonies that, particularly the traditional Andean ceremonies that are from that part?
Well, in the summit, we had 3 of the most renowned, old-fashioned, older people who, like the Tamayos and Jose Joaquin Pineda and Maria Juana, who are very grounded in the 1,000 years tradition of La Limpia, which is the energy removal through extraction and working with plants and fire and alcohol and water and plants and herbs and stones and candles. It's a whole ceremony that is so primal, so there's no words to experience to express what actually how it's done, but it's a very methodical system that work to
clearly
change.
You're back in New York and not in the jungle from the background.
Yes, that's right. Although in the jungle we had other voices.
Right.
And then we had people who are doing the takisami, the sound healing ceremonies, which is a different way of doing La Limpia with sound. Oscar Santillan and Susana Tapia Leon, and they were very powerful, amazing ceremonies that people just like totally found their soul again. And then we had Hacho and Alberto Tazzo that were doing beautiful, more modern La Limpia, that with more of a expression of opening the heart, and more of the feminine energy with them, and it was just quite amazing. And then we had the people from the Tachila, from the people from the Santo Domingo del Colorados. They came there and they did a beautiful ceremonies, and they did also plant medicine in the evenings, but they did a beautiful healing that was so powerful. I mean, it's very hard to really explain to people over a broadcast how it's done. I really described that in my book, The Shamanic Healing, because it's so involved. But it's such a beautiful experience that they had there, and everybody was totally walking on air, And the thing is that it was that many people took advantage of meeting or working with these 10 shamans, and they went from one to another, and they really experienced deeply the teaching and the conviction, and it was really powerful and amazing, and it really brought the whole community together, the shamans and the participant together. And at the very end, in the final ceremony, it was so emotional and beautiful, and they really felt like that we all became one big family, which is like the most important thing for all of us. And like our biggest sickness in our modern world is that we are all feeling out of community and lonely and separate, and that's really the source of all sicknesses. And so they brought it all together, and it was just really beautiful, really quite amazing.
Yeah, as you say, there's such a need for unity consciousness, and to see it them coming together like that is very inspiring. I can just see that all of those people from those other countries are taking that out and bringing it into their community. And, a lot of times people call themselves a shaman, and it's Sandy and I talk about this a lot. It's such a misnomer, because a person doesn't call themselves a shaman. Their community says they're a shaman because they're in service to the community. Talk a little bit about that coming together and the whole idea of community and the role of the shaman in the community.
We have a tendency in our Western world to have everything shortcuts. We don't have attention span more than 20 minutes. So we want to be shamans in 20 minutes. And people come and they listen to some beautiful master classes and experience healing. And then the next thing, they are taking groups to the Amazon and to the Andes, and they call themselves shamans. What really strikes me most is that the grandchildren who were brought up like that for many years, they start to really practice it in the age of 8. And only at the age of 14 or 15, they are allowed to really do it. So it takes them 7 years, 8 years to really own the craft. My take from it is that I know that many people in the United States or Europe are taking core shamanism, and they do all kind of different work with the spirit and drumming and the journey work and power animal work. And I'm not discounting it, I'm using it myself too. But I think it's very important, and that's really one of my goals was in the summit, is to bring people who are never experienced work with indigenous authentic shamanism or shamans to experience it firsthand, not to hide in the kitchens or in the living rooms and just drum, but really be in the environment where people for the thousands of years experiencing it with the smoke and the fire and all the dirty type of work. I think it's very important because in many ways, when you are experiencing something happen to you, you really become one with nature, and you really become more humble in the presence of those shamans who practices day in and out, and they work with spirit and with their ancestor and with the great spirit all the time, and they're surrounded with the mountains, with the water, with the lakes. It is very humbling experience, and I hope that people who are working in shamanism and counseling people and doing all this work, first of all for themselves, they need to go and recharge, but to also to have a touch or to have a deep understanding of the immense power that you have by keeping ancestral work alive. And that's really one of the mission of that summit, was to keep that ancestral healing alive, and make it economical, feasible for the grandchildren to continue to work in that way. That they we compensated the shaman very well, so they don't feel they were abused or used. They were really happy with that way we contributed to their well-being. So, and it's so beautiful to see the grandchildren participating in all of that. So I think that it's important for people from that, especially for people who are doing shamanic work from all over the world, to come and to really get the essence of what it is to be a true, authentic shaman.
I love you use the word essence, because it's very easy to see the process, the way that it's done, and say, oh, I could do that. I could go step 1, 2, 3, and 4. But it completely misses the power that's behind it, which comes from a deep presence, a connection with the stillness and the ancient inner light that is developed and held by the ancestors and the elements and all of that. And you can't do that with just, okay, I'm going to blow fire on you and beat you with nettles and, but it is an essence, and it allows us, when we're in the company of people who have been handed down through this tradition, these tools which don't have anything to do with it. It's what they're how they're using them and how it shows up. So, and I think it is really important to recognize the ancestry behind it. Also, you mentioned that. Can you go a little deeper into the relationship of the healing ancestors, the ancient ones, and that whole process through being expressed through the living ones?
When every shaman talked or gave his speech or a presentation, we call it, they always say, my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, I'm 5th generation, 8th generation, 10th generation. Or some people said, I don't have any generations, but I follow a tradition. Mm-hmm. It is so important, because what you get is a feeling that they relied, their ancestors have their backs. They are totally in service for their ancestors. It's not about them. It's not about you. It's about what the ancestors are telling them to do, and honoring it. And they're so proud of that. It's so amazing. But you have to understand that those people are very rooted in their culture, and they are very rooted in their place of birth. My teacher is from Iluman, and Iluman is the village that is famous all over the world for the Yachakuna, the shamans. This is the trade of the village, that everybody's a shaman, they're shaman families. And they do that for hundreds of years. And they're very proud of it. And so the beauty of it is that they as they do the healing, they are communicating to the spirit of their ancestors. They're asking for help. They're asking for the help of the Apus, the mountains. They're asking for the help of the Magdalena, the rivers, and the San Pedro, the lakes, or Mohanda, the lake, or the mountain. So they are not disconnected from where they are. Yeah. What they are, give them the power to do a powerful healing, and their powerful healing empower all the environment that they are in with. So it's just a beautiful. You feel connected to the universe, not in the ethereal way, but truly through a physical, emotional, and spiritual connection. And that's really the healing. people where they are leaving, you experience that too. I mean, people are leaving the Olympia room or the sound healing room, or they feel one. They feel one and connected and in total harmony with that universe. And that I hope that all these 45 people who were there bring them back to their families and to their life here, and they can be able to continue to maintain that. Because when we change the world around us. And then it's always going 6 degrees of separation, as science tells us, that if you are feeling happy, if you feel contained, your family feel contained, and your children feel contained, and that it goes spread around. Mm-hmm. And in the world that we are in now, where children are sitting in cages, this is what we need to do. I mean, we really need to, push harder to spread that consciousness. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to live in a world like that and not feel that shamanic healing or connection to spirit or connection to the universe is so important for us.
Yeah, it's so true. I'd like to talk about Aini a little bit, the sacred reciprocity. I had a thought when you were talking about showering the teachers. It's an angel flying by with a loud noise. When you were talking about that they were well showered with money, on the one hand, that makes me really happy. And on the other hand, I have a little part of me that's bothered, not because I don't think that there should be reciprocity, Aini, as they call it, the sacred exchange, but because of how it changes the culture. I think of what's happened, say, with the Karo, a dying culture that was so pure and lived in really unity consciousness, has now been destroyed, and so many cultures have been destroyed around this issue, and yet they need money to live, and they have children, and it's a really interesting thing because a lot has changed in Ecuador and Peru and Brazil out of this. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about it, because it's an interesting subject. It's not that the money is corrupting, but when there's a lot of money going on, it creates greed sometimes, and we've seen that in the faux shamans that are arising, and some of the ayahuasqueros that are selling themselves and in some ways hurting some people. I know the people you've taken that you've known for over 20 years, most of them. So. But what are your thoughts about that, Itzhak?
Well, time is changing. We can't really stop that. I think that one of the missions we have, or for myself, I speak to myself, is to make sure that the next generation, the grandchildren, will continue to practice this practice. They will not do that if there is no... if they can't make a living out of that.
Yeah, they'll go to the city and get a computer job or something.
Well, they do. I mean, Don Jose, one of his grandson is so amazing shaman, a beautiful, beautiful shaman. He's 22, and he speaks perfectly English, but he does the work, but he doesn't want to do that. He wants to be a technician. He wants a computer technician. And the other guy works in finance, and the other guy goes in different, he's a graphic designer. But anyway, I think that the exchange that we do is that they give us the condor, the medicine, and we give them the eagle. I don't think that it has to do with money. It has to do with values. It has to do with consciousness. It has to do with healing. And as Ipopiara used to say, my teacher, that you never really pay for the healing, because you can't put a price on changing your life, on how I take away your disease and your sickness and your depression. That's not what you pay for. What you're paying is for the time for that person to do it. And because our society today is not based on a barter society, it's not based on exchange, that I would give you chickens and you give me a healing. They need to survive. Now, with all those 22 years that I'm doing this work, I never met any rich shaman.
Don Jose has a pretty nice farm, I gotta say.
yes, but he's not rich.
Yeah,
He's not.
yeah,
He doesn't have a Volvo. He doesn't. He doesn't go on vacation. He works every day.
Yeah.
And he really cares about the people that that he works with. So I think that, and on the other hand, you don't want to have a shaman who is destitute. You want to have a shaman that feels comfortable in his skin, in his environment, that he's happy, that he can give you what you deserve. So I think that it's a very touchy subject, and I do believe that, and I think I talked to you about that before, that we in the West, we are starving for spirituality and a source of healing, and they have the greed of money, which we brought them that disease. And we are both greedy. And I think that it's very important for both of us, or both cultures, to understand that each of us need to find a more balanced way between money and spirituality. And I think a lot of the thing that's happening with the ayahuasca ceremonies and all the plant medicine is that Western people are greedy. They want more visions, more consciousness, more of this, more of that, more of this.
And they want it now.
And they want now. And they don't and they want 40 of them, 80 of them, 120 of them. And it's really, they never really take time to process it. They never take time to really act on their visions.
Yeah.
And that's really the important part. And I talked to Don Sabino, you met him, and he said that the whole purpose of ayahuasca is not really to have visions or all of that. It's really to open your heart. And I wonder how many people who did 120 or 180 ceremonies, if their heart is open.
Yeah.
And I think that we had experience in the summit. We had experience of a few ceremonies that people didn't have much healing, much visions, but they had incredible healing of opening the heart. It was so beautiful to see how it's all come together in that way. So I think that there is a belief system that people who are doing spiritual work should not get paid because spirit give it to them. But then why would you pay a doctor, or why do you pay your insurance broker because they have a talent for numbers? No, we all have to honor the other person's well-being. And I gotta tell you, the shamanic, and you see it with this shaman because I know them quite well. We all have the effect of these healing ceremonies. We take a lot of energy from people who are suffering, and a few of the shamans that I know already passed away from disease and sicknesses that they didn't take care of. It's a very dangerous work, and I know that some people may not agree with me, and I did not agree with that when I started because I thought it's really I thought that it's the shaman. When the shaman talked about that, I thought that they're just making it up because they wanted to glorify themselves, but it's not true. I had my own share of diseases that happened because of negative energy that happened to me in my body, and every time that I go to do a cleansing with the shamans, they will always talk to me about that I'm not clearing enough, that I'm not doing enough. It's a dangerous work, and we need to, every shaman need to really take care of himself or herself and make sure that they are well, their body and their spirit and soul are balanced so they can serve other people. And you can't do that when you are worrying about your mortgage and your car and or paying your rent. It just doesn't work. That's the irony. The irony is that each of us give what the other person deserve to live quality life.
Yeah, I love your take on it, and I've never been one to say because it's spiritual it should be free. When I look at and it depends on the traditions, of course, but if you look at say African Sangoma, they expect to be paid because that's their profession. It's the disparity, the inequality, which we also have here, say between a school teacher and a banker or a Wall Street broker. It's the same issue here. Is how do you really look at the value? I used to work in the corporate world as a consultant, and sometimes still do, and you get paid stupid amounts of money compared to people who are doing really work of the heart, so it's always an issue to pay attention to. And I think one of the issues in terms of the healing aspect is that we project our beliefs on other people. And when we have an upset around the money and how it's happening with giving or not getting enough and that whole thing, it's a reflection of our inner world. And I think that would be a shamanic perspective, is what I'm looking out here judging this, but what in here needs to be healed for me about my relationship to money, or about reciprocity, or about giving. I think that's, yeah.
Many of the shamans there, they don't have any questions about money.
Yeah.
They know they have a price.
Mm-hmm.
You come, you pay, and then they do the healing, because this is an exchange. The exchange is their energy with my energy. That's how it works. There's no questions about that. I mean, you can ask to say that you can't pay, or you can negotiate with that stuff, but there is no question
mm-hmm.
that they need to live life.
Mm-hmm.
And who else would give it to them? Their ancestors are busy in the other world. They're not going to pay them their mortgage or their cars or their medicine or the eggs and the herbs or the plants. So I think that question, I think that it should go to rest, because
the
idea that you need to be poor and give your energy to other people with no pay, I don't know who created that, but it doesn't work. And I got to tell you, I know a few of people who believe in that, and they always ask for discount to come to workshop, because they always believe that they deserve to be poor because they're so spiritual. And the shamanic practice is a little different than spirituality, because shamanic practice is not spiritual in its essence. It's very practical.
Mm.
I mean, we are working with spirit, we're working with energies, but it's not about being enlightened. It's about being together, being one,
mm-hmm.
to be grounded, to have strong roots in the earth with Pachamama.
Yeah, it's animistic. It's looking at the soul of everything that's alive and being related to it.
Exactly. So when you create oneness like that,
mm-hmm.
then you become fully productive in the world. Your family is taken care of, you are taken care of, you are able to work for the community. But if you only doing kind of like spiritual work, or if you're only meditating, I mean, it's a concept that is very strange to the shamans in the Andes, because they don't meditate. they pray. They are always in ceremony. They are
I was just going to say ceremony, right?
Yes, they are always in ceremony, because every encounter that you have with the mountains or with the lakes or with other people is a ceremony. It's a ritual. It's a sacred ritual. And so they are totally connected. They are working, spirit, body, and emotions are all connected all the time. So for them to sit down for 20 minutes and meditate and being enlightened, it's like, what they do is they may go to a tree and they ask the tree, or meditate with the tree, or with a flower, or with the mountains. You know, they will stand in front of the mountain and say, Tata Taita Imbambura, what shall I do? Mm-hmm. And then the mountain starts to talk to them. That's how they connect to spirit. So they're not looking for enlightenment. They are looking for practical way to improve people's life. Mm. And I think which is incredibly important.
Yeah. I always remember our trip together when we went to Don Jose, and he said, if you need anything, you just call on the Apu, call on Imbambura. And other people don't know this story, but just to share the power of it. Then we went to the sacred waterfall, and Marielle and I went down. And of course, you know me, I went tearing down, throwing my clothes off left and right. And I went right in under this enormous waterfall crashing down. And I had been used to getting under waterfalls for an energy thing that I did. And I'm standing under it and I'm soaking up the energy, and just so powerful, so beautiful. And I came out and I couldn't see very well. And I realized I didn't have my glasses on. And here I am,
remember that?
Yeah, standing naked in the water, and I can't see anything. And we went back and we looked everywhere under the waterfall, and 45 minutes, and Marielle had 2 hats on because the waterfall was so cold and crashing. And I'm looking around and looking around. People are praying on the side, no glasses. And it was early in our trip, because then we were going to Peru and all these other places. And then Marielle stopped and she said a prayer to Imbambura. And she reached down and picked up the glasses. If you need any other validation than that was pretty amazing. Remember that? So crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, we're getting close to the end of the time, but what else do we want to share with people about Andean shamanism, the herbs, the plants, the people? Well, any last things you'd like to share with people?
I think that it's very important to remember that the Andes shamanism, the Andes healing tradition was kept in hiding for many, many years, for 500 years. They were ashamed. They were forbidden to speak their language, to practice it. It was practiced in hiding. On the top of the mountains and in caves. And part of the mission of this summit is to give back those people who are now, with the prophecy of the condor and the eagle, if that started in 1994. So we had 25 years of openly practicing this medicine. We give them the pride of, or we are allowing them to feel that we really value that. And that it is so important, not just for them because they are their identity, but it's also important for us, for the people in the north, the people, the eagle people, the brainy scientific mind, that to reconnect the mind and the heart in a beautiful way. And they kept that tradition we don't want that mission, this tradition to disappear. We don't want people to lose their heart, like we see experiencing now in the United States, that half of this country is totally lost their heart because they don't know that what the condor is. They've never been to another country where people are brown or people have different cultures.
Yeah.
It is sad. And so by us making a pilgrimage over there, we recognize our own need, and we recognize their need, and we are bringing a unity to all of it. And I think that that's very important, that we validate their culture, we validate our needs, and we are coming there with open hearts to learn from them. That was such a beautiful experience. Dancing and eating with them and sharing wisdom and hugging and, you know, meeting the grandchildren.
Chicha.
And the chicha, absolutely. So I think that what I'm saying is that we cannot live in a Western world that devoid of spirit or the heart, the connection to the heart. And our teachers, as much as they are fantastic teachers in the gringo world, they are not as rooted in that deep roots of the traditions. Yeah. And I think that we need to find ways to bring those teachers or come to them. And instead of bringing them to us, we should come to them, because we need to make the pilgrimage. We need to make the effort to show that we are honoring them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And becoming one family.
Yeah. In fact, I just wanted to say, some people may not know the prophecy of the eagle or the condor, but for those who don't, just very briefly, it's, you know, in this particular Pachacuti, this period of time, it's prophesied that the eagle and the condor will fly together, and that the eagle represents the scientific, the mind, the air, and the condor represents the earth and the heart and that deep connection with the natural world. And so the prophecy is that in this time, we must come together and fly together. And that's a short version of the prophecy for anyone who doesn't know. I also wanted to tell people that if you'd like to have this and all of the recordings, that you can listen here for 48 hours, but if you want to have them, there's so much wisdom in all of them. You can just go to shamanismsummit.com/upgrade, and you can download all of these for yourself. So Itzhak, my friend, any other last things? I don't want to leave you because it's always so great to be with you. But, anything else? What's next for you?
Well, I'm writing another book. I guess when you start, it's very hard to stop. About how shamanism can be helpful in business visioning. It's a subject that I'm working with other people on, and I do it for years. But I wanted to now to put it together. So we need to change consciousness of the decision makers in business, because they have such a big stock on other people's life. And so we want to change that. And we want to give people who are entrepreneurs and startup companies a way of visioning in a ever-changing, so fast-changing technology that changes the world and the landscape all the time. So the shamanic work is very important and it could be used for that.
That's exciting. We should talk because I've written a lot about that. So we should definitely
absolutely.
Yeah, I'll call you soon.
Yeah, I think that we should collaborate on that.
Yeah.
And then I'm working on a documentary movie about a woman who that I know, that with Ipo Piara, my teacher, who started to talk about receive messages from the ancestors, and from Brazil, and we're going to go to Brazil to film that. And I'm on my regular things. I have different workshops, different teachings. And I'm taking people to the Amazon on January. So there's a full plate of different excitement. I mean, I'm always looking for another adventure. And I always change my adventure so it would not be boring or repeating itself. So it's a full time.
Keeps you young and alive, my friend. Keeps you young and alive. If people want to get a hold of you, they can go to ItzhakBeery.com. That's ItzhakBeery.com or shamanportal.org. And ItzhakBeery, it's just, my friend, I just love you. It's so great to spend time together. And I will give you a call either later or tomorrow, and we'll chat. So thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Much love.
Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody who is listening to this amazing program with Michael, because there's nobody else like Michael. And
there's no one else like any of you.
No, you are all precious, but Michael Stone is a beautiful soul who really dedicated itself to this work and to expand the consciousness of people. And so listen to all of his work. It's beautiful. Thank you. And I want to remind everybody that life is Hatun Pachakamak. It's a great mystery. And that's really what we're celebrating, the unknown, the mystical possibilities of the world, and be in that magic.
Yes, the magic. Thank you. Blessings.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for joining us for the Shamanism Global Summit, brought to you by the Shift Network. For more information about joining our global community who are awakening to their divine humanity and taking inspired action, visit theshiftnetwork.com. To learn more about the entire Shamanism Global Summit collection of teachers and healers, or to add all these interviews to your personal library, visit shamanismsummit.com/upgrade. Thank you again for gathering with us and for sharing this empowering path with your friends and family.